One of the people that I was lucky enough to meet while I was working NandisCon running it was one of our guests named Susumu Sakurai. And Sakurai-san he hasn't been back here for a couple years because he's incredibly busy, but he's really dedicated to fandom. He really cares about people. And I sat one night and I had a talk with him. And it was kind of funny because we're meeting at such a point where I said, when I was young, how I ended up getting into anime, the first anime I was really exposed to, I was raised in Japan, but then came here and totally removed from the culture. Got back to it because I saw Macross. And he started laughing. He says, it's my first series too. That's the one that he became a fan of over there. Well, my life path, I ended up being a secretary, I ended up being in computer sciences, whatever. His life path, he dedicated to creating the art form that he loves. But in order to do that, he sleeps on the concrete floor in his office and sleeps for about 4 hours a night before he goes back to work the next day to try and get everything out, because he is hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting to try and get things done in a production where creating an entire anime series might have a total of 20 people heavily involved in doing it. It's extremely hard labor. It's extremely grueling. He gets used to sleeping 4 hours a night because that's what he has to do to be able to put it out. And he loves the art, and he loves the people who love the art, and he will do anything to make it possible for that to be spread around the world. He's the only Japanese guest that came to America 2 weeks after 9/11. Because he was willing to risk everything to be here with the con because he cares about the people. So I'm looking and talking legitimately with industry members he's making barely enough to feed his wife and 2 kids. He sees his wife once a week. He sleeps on a concrete floor because they brought in a chair for a while for him to sleep in, but the office was so small that the chair didn't really fit. And he is a legitimate and wholehearted representative of the industry. They're working their hearts out. They are dying to make this happen, and they're making almost nothing for it because of the way that the money gets split up to the government, gets split up to the production companies, gets split up to everyone. It's not like they're getting rich from it. And that's something that I think is really lost from the side of a person who's looking at a site online and seeing a DVD for $55 in our funds and thinking, good God. And a huge chunk of that is going to pay for the 3 square feet of office space that Mr. Sakurai is working in. It's really easy to think that this is a big cabal that is trying to rip you off for however much money when these other guys are so nice and friendly and kind and willing to give it to you for pennies. And it's almost exactly the opposite, where there's these unique, kind-hearted people who are vested in it, who are working their hearts out, versus who knows where it's coming from on the other side.
I really wish there was a way to get this kind of thought to more fans, because you try to talk to people and try to make people understand why things are expensive here, and really when you compare it to what the Japanese are charging, like you say,
Yeah,
$50
kind of
even $60 for a couple episodes. We're not paying that much, and you compare it to regular domestic releases. A movie that's $20 and only 90 minutes long. Yeah, we're not paying that much really for a disc with anime on it, but you get all these responses like, well, but this and but that, and it seems like people seem to think they're getting ripped off, whereas really the industry has come so far in the past 20 years, or even the last 10 years.
It's easy for us to believe we're being ripped off because so often people do lie to us. It's not a perfect world. You have got a con artist on every corner. And unfortunately, in this case, the pirate con artists are pretty good at getting their message out by trying to get people to vote with their wallets. And in a lot of cases, getting junk. I would really actually, if I start talking a lot with Mr. Sakurai again, maybe what I should do is just make up a pie chart that says here's $60 in the Japanese market. $30 of that just went to maintaining your building and services. This amount went to this amount went to this. It's not like this is something where people are getting rich off of it.
Well, I think it does help because you have issues with like Bandai right now, and they're having problems with their discs. So people are getting frustrated with things like that.
Yeah.
Discs that don't like to work after the third episode.
Yeah, and that's always, I mean, there's always challenges in any industry. I'm the dork that showed up to this panel without my box of examples, for instance. And that doesn't have such a big impact as whether Bandai's production company got a bad lot of discs to work with this time. But it is all very based on a human chain of events, and there can be things that happen that are negative that are really not intended by a company. And if the company doesn't respond well in the community and really work to repair the damage that they've done to their own reputation accidentally, it can leave a long-term impact on their reputation and on people's opinions of whether that person is or is not a trustworthy person, whether that company is or is not a trustworthy company. And sometimes it's purely accidental where the company didn't mean to rip anybody off, but things went very, very wrong. We have long memories for things like that. And unfortunately, no one's answerable for anything on the pirating side. So if you get junk from a pirate, they don't have to explain to you why they sold you junk. They're not there anymore. You don't know where it came from at the end of the chain. They have no expectation or social contract that they will respect their customers or treat their customers as human beings in any way. A legitimate company has to face up to their failings, has to answer for every flaw and every problem. And sometimes they're better at that than others. There's been historically some legitimate companies that have done a very bad job of handling problems with production. We hope that as time goes by, they'll get some experience and get better at that. I'm starting to feel like I'm very much on a soapbox, and I apologize for that if I'm sounding like I'm pontificating. But I do think that sometimes we have a world that is very situationally dependent as far as ethics go. We have a wide range of beliefs and a wide range of feelings, and we need to respect each other's ideas. But every now and then, you come across an idea that is clear-cut enough and straightforward enough that it's well worth defending, and that there's not a way to say, well, on a gray scale, this is kind of gray. It's very clear that this stuff is not good in so many ways for so many reasons. So I do apologize if I'm sounding like I feel.
You know, a lot of people also don't realize that the Hong Kong police have said that over 50% of bootlegs that come out of Hong Kong is supporting the Triad.
Oh, nice.
And
I
the Triad
do
has
think
found
I
it
heard that.
as just as profitable doing bootlegs. And this isn't just anime, this is everything. I don't know how big of a percentage anime is of it, but they have found it to be as profitable as prostitution and drugs.
Wow. Well, I can see they're probably doing a lot of Hollywood discs too, because I know I've seen like bad Star Wars ones where Yoda's pregnant or something according to the subtitles.
There was a Star
Actually,
Wars one
they're-
on eBay.
The biggest problem is Hollywood movies. I don't know how big the percentage anime is, but
It's-
anime is a part of it.
It's very popular over there, so I'm sure it's a big chunk. I am going to go here and here and here and here.
I have just on the subject of stuff that's not anime. I have seen long before Star Wars was ever available on DVD. I saw box sets offered on eBay, all 3 Star Wars movies with special features, 100% legitimate. So, I mean, it's obvious that so much stuff is just coming out. You have to. It's kind of requires the buyer to be aware of, is this even available?
Yeah.
You know, is it not just, wow, look what I'm getting? It's like, is this even available to me?
That is one thing that I would recommend doing, is looking around. If you're in the market and you're going to be a collector and you want to start a collection of very legitimate items, is this item only available from one source and some of that site looks a little skeevy? That may not be a good item. It's a good thing to think about whether something is widely available. The more you get into collecting a certain thing, like I collect Shirajiki, the more you will get used to seeing what's normal and what's not quite right. So experience really tells a lot.